What's going on, still RapNerd, and with the weekend wrapping for Memorial Weekend and seeing the Furiosa box office, I just kind of wanted to make a video discussing my thought process of things that I've seen in reviews, critically, these different articles, and most of all, social media reaction. If you've been following the box office for Furiosa, which that in itself is a thing that never used to happen until social media, it's not doing too well. I think worldwide it's at $64 million, and I'm seeing a whole lot of cries from cinephiles across social media saying audience should show up, they failed this movie, you should be ashamed of yourself, all these different things. And I kind of wanted to shed some light on that because I read an interesting article that kind of backed up exactly what I thought. And seeing that article made me want to make this video. I'll post it down below. It's from Vulture. I forgot the writer's name. Shout out to him. But he really articulated it well, and I'm just going to say that here. So first off, I think for cinephiles, right, a message to the people out there who are, movie fanatics, who are a fan of the theaters, I think that it's kind of not fair to point the blame at audiences because the audience is going to do what they're going to do. Some people just aren't interested in certain films. I'm one. There are definitely films that I've seen that are held deeply to the cinephile community, and I'm part of that community as well, but it's just not my cup of tea that it failed. And I saw tweets and all these different things, pointing the blame like, you're the reason this movie failed. Real cinema people watch these movies. And it's like, it's not that serious. Some people just don't want to see the film, so I don't think they should be blamed for the movie not making much. And if we're being real, if we're talking about box office numbers, the Fury Road didn't do that well either. I mean, we're talking about 380 on a close to $200 million budget. Same thing here. I don't think that this movie was made for that, and I think it's a mix-up between what a tentpole film is and what a blockbuster is. And a lot of people are looking to movies like Furiosa, who are more niche than they really think, as tentpole films, and they're not that. And that goes into studio. So I just want to say that quick thing about the cinephiles and their message to audiences. Can't really blame them because this all falls in the hands of the studio, and I've said this time and time again, it's their fault all this is happening. For some reason, they treat every single movie like a tentpole film, which, like I said, the difference between blockbuster and tentpole, blockbusters are just big movies that end up making a lot of money to break the box office. Whereas a tentpole is a film that the studio depends on for a financial gain to help fund other stuff. Everything's not a tentpole, so them treating movies like a tentpole is just a terrible idea. And in this article I read, the Universal and I think Warner Bros., if these two are doing it, then I'm sure other studios are doing it too. But if a film does not make $40 million this opening weekend, they dump it on streaming in the next 2 weeks. I think that is crazy, and I feel like that is part of the reason why more audiences don't show up for more stuff, because they're pretty much telling people, hey, you don't have to go to theaters to see this. It's going to be on streaming anyway, so whatever you choose to do, there you go. And that is really a very bad choice to do. It's going to stunt the growth of box office, and I understand that most movies make the bulk of their money the opening weekend, but you have to leave some word of mouth and some room for legs to run past 2 weeks. You're not going to really get anything in 2 weeks. You never know what could happen. I believe that movie last year that released, Anyone But You, that's a romantic comedy that I believe Glenn said that he fought to put the movie in theaters because of the experience that they could provide. And it ended up doing way better than what they expected because they left it in theaters for so long. I'm like, there are a lot of movies that are just like that. I'm not saying that it's going to end up making $100 million more if you let it live in the theater, but allow the word of mouth to happen. We have social media accounts that are dedicated to certain movies and fandoms that will spread the word of mouth just by simply tweeting a GIF or pictures. I literally went to go see a film because I saw somebody talking about it. They showed like a GIF or like just screenshots, and I was like, oh, what is that? Boy Kills World is one of them. I didn't know it was a movie until a friend of mine shared some images from it, and I thought it was tight. Allowing movies to breathe more will help the box office overall, but when you cut it off at the legs and they condition audiences to go off that, I can't really blame the audience for doing that, because I'm gonna be real. A lot of people would rather watch films at home if it's not a movie that they really want to go out their way to see, especially with how costly films are nowadays, especially with how costly theaters are nowadays, and the theater etiquette is not good. Still to this day, I go to films all the time and I see people texting, talking, and all that stuff. Who wants to pay that much money to have a bad experience? I've had multiple bad experiences. To be real, the reason why I try to go on Thursdays is because I know there aren't a lot of people there. Because if you go on a Friday or a Saturday, there's a chance that you're going to have a terrible crowd and they're going to ruin the movie for you. I have a lot of films that I watched in theater and it was a miserable experience, but thankfully the movie shined through and I loved it. So that's number one. The window of time a movie stays in theaters is gonna kill the industry. It's gonna kill cinemas and all of that, and they're gonna have to rebrand, and they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board of how to make films, and I don't want that to happen because they can't compete with Netflix, you know. And that's another thing, is that these studios want to be a streaming studio so bad while also being a box office studio. The two can't happen. It's impossible. Netflix has, I believe, 270 subscribers. You know, they have 3 different tiers, right? From $6 to 20. I'm just gonna meet in the middle and say, let's just say $10 a piece, right? You have 270 million subscribers at $10 a month. Do the math of how much that is. It's $2.7 billion a month. Multiply by 12. Their income is based on subscription, so you cannot do the same thing with the box office. It's not gonna work. They're able to spend all this money on this content because they're getting billions of dollars a month. And again, the business side of it is a little more than that. You know, they're in the red and blah, blah, blah. I'm not getting into that. I'm just talking about the income that we can see and base things off of right there, right? They can afford that. Studios can't. But the thing about studios is when films hit theaters, the amount of money that can be made, the sky's the limit. You can't play the game with both because it's gonna end up failing, as it's done since 2020 when all these studios decided they wanted to be streamers. It can't work. You gotta stop trying to follow that moniker. And the next thing that this article mentions that I think is one of the best pieces of information is you gotta stop treating every single movie like a tentpole. And you heard what I said earlier. Tentpole is a film that is gonna pay for a lot of other films in production of a studio. Mad Max is not that. It never was that. This is one of the movies that gets paid for by the tentpole. So for these different articles to shape the narrative that this movie was somehow gonna save theaters and save cinema, I think is very misleading. When I don't think it should have been judged like that from the start. So we've now entered in a stage where the narrative is stopping films from being created, and I think that that's not a good thing. Of course, you want to keep the finance in the forefront because you're shelling out money, studios are shelling out money, and I'm saying you because who knows who from studio could be watching. I know they have market researchers who go on social media and say things and do these type of things, but I'm talking to them. Gotta let movies live, bro. Stop putting things on VOD so quickly, and we'll start to see a turnaround in what's going on. Is it going to be back to the maximum of what it was 10 years ago? No, but it'll be in a better place. So it's really up to studios to control that narrative. I just really wanted to give my take on there that audiences shouldn't be out to blame. So cinephiles gotta stop doing it. I admit that I was even into doing that at a certain point, but it's not fair. People have the right to see what they want to see and not what they don't. It just is what it is. And to stop that from happening more, studios gotta stop dumping shit on streaming so quickly. I remember back in the 90s, if you missed a movie, you weren't seeing that joint for another year till it hit VHS, and it may be 2 or 3 years after that till you see it on TV. We gotta get back to that, man. Let streaming be streaming, studios be studio. What Netflix is doing is cool. Let them do that. You ain't got to battle with them because you're not gonna win. They don't base anything off of box office, so it's a whole different ball game when it comes to what films do. You know what I mean? So that's just my 2 cents. Let me know in the comments what you think. I think Furiosa is an amazing movie, one of my favorites. I'm just glad that it exists, and I love that it exists. And I just really want everybody to celebrate the movies you like, you know? Put it out there. Help the word of mouth spread positively without pointing the finger at other people as to why something isn't doing good, because that's not gonna help anything. It ain't. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like, subscribe, and if you already are subscribed, thank you. And until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.